Hi, this is Dennis with Tybee Games. Going to do a quick little review of this cool new Bluetooth gamepad. This is from 8Bitdo, who makes the little tiny Bluetooth gamepad we're going to be giving away later in the month. I'm recording this on August 2nd, 2017, by the way. I'll probably release this about a week later, putting this together with a System 3, a custom System 3, and putting it together. Anyway, this controller is it's a Bluetooth gamepad, like I said. It also comes with a USB charging cable that you can plug directly into something like a laptop that doesn't have Bluetooth, so it can connect like a regular USB gamepad. Now, there's a couple of cool things about this. It's very similar to a Super Nintendo controller. This is the RetroLink version of that. Kind of similar. It's about the same size. It's not quite as wide, but it's the same height, and it's got the same number of buttons plus a few other extra buttons. It actually has L1, R1, and then L2 and R2, both on the shoulder there in line. That's kind of cool. And it's got a couple of analog sticks here, and as well little clicky buttons here within the analog sticks as well. So it's got 12 buttons all together along with your D-pad and analog sticks, which is pretty cool. So it has the aesthetic look of an original NES controller, and the layout is somewhat more like the Super Nintendo, but if you compare here, all the buttons are convex, and they are a little smaller, and they're closer together. You notice this Super Nintendo type controller, the buttons are in kind of a flattened diamond shape, but these are in a more regular right angles type of shape, so perfectly square looking. And actually I noticed when I looked at a Nintendo 64 controller that the button size and arrangement is very close to what you get in the C buttons on a Nintendo 64 controller. So it seems to be a combination of NES, Super Nintendo, and Nintendo 64 in that respect. The D-pad has a really good feel. Doesn't take much actuation force like a lot of other gamepads I've used this year. And the sticks feel really good. Another cool thing, it has the rubberized select and start, but the tops of the thumbsticks here on these analog sticks seem to be coated with a disc of the same rubber material here, so it has a little bit of a grip. So that's pretty cool. And something else I was noticing, when I hold at least a Super Nintendo type controller, my thumbs seem to come to rest slightly forward of the buttons and the D-pad. But with this, with the slightly different positioning, my thumbs seem to come to rest right on top of the D-pad and the face buttons. So that's another thing that's pretty cool. The buttons feel really good. The materials this is made of is very high quality. I've got two cheap Super Nintendo knockoffs, and they seem to be made of what is a very cheap generic plastic, probably some plastic pellets that are put in a heat morphing mold. But this is some high quality stuff. If the exterior materials are any clue, I would guess that the interior components are going to hold up under a lot of use as well. It's pretty easy to power up. There's a power button right there and a pairing button right there. I've noticed also that you can't probably see it too well, but right in here on the side is an LEDs, and when you power it on, you can see it come on. Anyway, when it's running low, these will blink red, and while you're charging it, they blink green, and when it's done charging, fully charged, they'll blink blue like this. And once you pair it with something, I believe it stops blinking. And it will pair with Android iPhones, iPads, NVIDIA Shields, Raspberry Pi 3 and Raspberry Pi Zero W, and Raspberry Pi 2, as far as I know. And this is really ideal for retro emulation, like all the early consoles, particularly things like Super Nintendo, and of course it'll handle N64 with the analog sticks, and it's got plenty of buttons, 12 buttons. It'll of course handle PlayStation really well too, but it has the feel, like I said, kind of like the D-pad is slightly smaller too than original NES or Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis, but it has that same kind of feel. Very easy on the thumbs. You could probably play this for hours. And I guess that's all I wanted to say. Did I mention prices? It's about $44 in at Micro Center in the Atlanta area, and you can find it on Amazon for about $10 cheaper, in the 30s. But on eBay, I found a vendor that would sell it for $26 and change with free shipping. So I got two of these for just over $50, which is about the price I would pay for one here, except I had to wait for 2 weeks for it to come from China, which is where they are manufactured, so it's not like I'm paying some knockoff company. Anyway, they're very high quality, 8Bitdo. All their stuff is really high quality so far from what I can tell. Their Bluetooth speakers are amazing. This Bluetooth controller and another that is on the way that I'll be reviewing later as well. And check out our giveaway, which should be pinned at the top of the Tybee Games page. And that's all I wanted to say. It's really good control. I give it at least a 9 out of 10. So there you go.